So, the day finally came when she got the first test result back. Positive for chlamydia. And just like that, everything felt like it cracked wide open. 5 years together, and I'm sitting there stunned, wondering how this could even be possible. I've never cheated. I don't even entertain the idea in my head. But seeing the look in her eyes, that mix of hurt, confusion, and doubt hit me like a freight train. It's wild how something you swear you'd never do suddenly makes you the villain just by association. She looked at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. The Airbnb night from May 5th to 8th, which I thought was an innocent necessity, suddenly felt like a trap closing in on me. Why did I even stay there? Why did I pick that place near all those clubs? It's like the perfect storm of suspicion, and I was caught in the middle. I tried to explain my side, piece by piece, making a timeline of my whereabouts during that week. I was at school, I was home, I was with my parents. Everything verified by location history, texts, and witnesses. But no matter what I said, she seemed stuck on that Airbnb night. She even checked if the Airbnb owner had security footage to clear me, but no luck there. I get it doesn't look good. The hardest part? Watching her spiral in her own head. She's mad, scared, and confused, but she also still doesn't believe I cheated. It's like she's caught between wanting to trust me and wanting to prepare for the worst. I don't blame her. It would be insane not to be suspicious when your whole body is telling you something's off. I wanted to scream to everyone, I didn't do it. But how do you prove a negative? How do you fight the idea that the evidence is against you even when you know your own truth? People she told at work and around the neighborhood are already whispering, and most just assume I'm guilty because that's the simplest answer. We decided to do the follow-up tests that night, both urine and blood tests. The waiting period? For 6 days that felt like an eternity. Every minute ticking by was a roller coaster of anxiety. Could the second test finally prove my innocence? Or would it seal the fate of our relationship? I spent those days trying not to lose it, constantly running through scenarios, preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best. I kept busy, focusing on the documentary work, trying to drown the noise in my head. But the silence between us at home was deafening. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was losing not just her trust, but maybe her love. The foundation of what we built over half a decade suddenly felt fragile, cracked by something neither of us expected. And honestly, I was terrified. Because even if I'm innocent, I don't know if that will be enough to fix what's been broken. The days waiting for the test results were hell. No other word for it. Every little silence felt louder, every passing glance between us came with its own weight. She wasn't being mean, if anything, she was trying to act normal, but it was the kind of normal you force when you're one word away from a breakdown. We were supposed to be getting ready for our anniversary trip 5 freaking years together, and instead, we were walking on glass around each other like strangers rehearsing how to be a couple again. I tried to joke like I usually do when she's stressed, but even the lightest joke didn't land. She'd smile for a second, then drift right back into her head. I could tell she was fighting herself, trying to trust me but preparing to hate me if it came back positive again. On day 3, she broke down. Completely. We were watching something on TV, some stupid sitcom, and out of nowhere, she just shut it off, looked at me, and said, "I want to believe you. I really do. But everything about this makes me feel like a fool." That crushed me. I told her again, for probably the 100th time, that I never cheated. That I didn't even flirt, didn't text anyone, didn't think about anything like that. That I loved her too much to risk what we had. But I could see it in her, the fear that loving me might make her blind. Then she said something I didn't expect. What if I had it for a long time and it just didn't show up until now? That completely shifted the energy in the room. We started Googling, going down medical rabbit holes. Apparently, chlamydia can be dormant in some people for months or even years without symptoms. That gave us both a sliver of hope. Maybe neither of us cheated. Maybe it was something one of us got way back, unknowingly, and it just now showed up. But that opened up another can of worms. Who had it first? Who brought it into the relationship without knowing? Did one of us cheat before we got together 5 years ago? Was there some medical history we forgot? We talked for hours, laying everything out. Past partners, random details we'd never brought up before. I told her about the girl I was with before her, how we only dated for a couple months. She mentioned a guy she kissed at a party before we got serious, but said she never slept with him. Every tiny memory started to feel suspicious under this new microscope. But even with that maybe it was dormant theory, the tension didn't disappear. Because if the results came back and I was positive too, it'd still point to me. I'd be the one with the active infection. And even though she wanted to believe I didn't cheat, I could feel her heart bracing for a reason to walk away. I didn't sleep that night. I'll never forget the way my phone buzzed that morning. We were having breakfast or trying to. I was barely touching my eggs and she just kept poking at her toast like it had personally offended her. Then my phone lit up with a notification from the clinic. Results were in. My heart dropped so fast I felt dizzy. I didn't want to check. I physically couldn't. My hand shook when I reached for the phone. She noticed. "Is it them?" I nodded. She didn't say anything, just stared at me, eyes wide. So I opened it. Negative. I stared at that word for so long I thought I was hallucinating. Negative. Negative. I looked up at her and said, "I'm clear." Her reaction was not what I expected. She blinked a few times, then started crying. Full-on sobbing. I got up, ran to her side of the table, and just held her. She was shaking. She kept whispering, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." I told her it was okay, that I understood why she doubted me, that anyone would've. But she wasn't just crying because she thought I was innocent now. She was crying because if I was negative and she was positive, then it had to be her. When she finally checked her own results, yeah, she was still positive. And suddenly this thing flipped completely. Because now she was the one who had to explain. She started spiraling, going through every possible explanation. Old infections, contaminated tools, shared bathrooms, hot tubs. She was grabbing at anything. Then she said something that made my stomach twist. What if someone hurt me and I didn't know? I felt like throwing up. She started recounting a night from a year ago, a party at a friend's place. She drank way too much. Doesn't remember much of anything. Woke up fully clothed but alone in the guest room. At the time she just assumed nothing happened. But now? I didn't know what to say. We sat there in silence, both of us reeling from possibilities we didn't want to think about. She looked so scared. And I realized all this time I was fighting to prove I was innocent, but now we were facing something a lot darker. She scheduled a follow-up appointment that day to do a full checkup and talk to a counselor. I offered to come with her. She said yes. That night, we held each other tighter than we had in weeks. No accusations. No blame. Just fear. Confusion. Sadness. And maybe a little bit of hope. Whatever this was, we weren't on opposite sides of it anymore. We were in it together. But the questions weren't over. If she hadn't cheated and I hadn't cheated, then where the hell did this come from? And were we strong enough to face whatever answer might be next? After everything flipped, I thought the tension would go away. I thought we'd be on the same team again. But the truth is things just got messy, eh? The next day, she got quiet. Real quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like someone screaming behind their eyes but doesn't want you to hear it. I tried to be supportive. I told her we'd figure it out, that maybe it was an old infection or a medical anomaly or some rare case you only hear about in weird medical journals. But she kept zoning out. Her hands trembled every time her phone buzzed. I caught her looking through old texts, even opening Snap memories from last year. Then she dropped something on me. There's something I didn't tell you, she said, eyes on the floor. My chest tightened instantly. She started talking about a guy she used to be close with. A friend. Before me. Or, technically during the early months of us. She swore they never did anything while we were exclusive, but she admitted it was a messy transition. One of those talking phases that overlapped. I never knew about him. Apparently he reached out recently. Just a "hey, how have you been" message. She ignored it. But now it was gnawing at her. I keep thinking, what if something happened back then and I didn't even know? What if that's where it came from? I asked her point blank, did you sleep with him while we were together? She looked me in the eye and said no. And weirdly, I believed her. I don't know why. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I wanted to believe her so badly I didn't care anymore. But it felt real. Her guilt wasn't the guilty kind. It was the terrified, overwhelmed, can't even think straight kind. Still, something didn't sit right. Not because I thought she cheated, but because everything was too convenient. A mystery infection. A single night she barely remembers. A ghost from the past sliding into her DMs the same month she tests positive? It felt like we were dragging bones out of a graveyard we didn't even know existed. And then came the worst part. Her neighbor stopped by that evening, the same one she smoked with the day she found out about the chlamydia. They chatted in the hallway. I didn't think much of it. But after she left, my girlfriend turned to me and said she told me something weird. Apparently, another girl in our building tested positive for chlamydia recently too. And she hasn't been sexually active for months. Now we had a new theory. What if there's some contamination going on? Shared laundry machines? Bathrooms? That suddenly didn't seem so crazy anymore. So now, instead of asking who cheated, we were asking what the hell is going on in this building? Because if multiple people who aren't even sexually active are popping positive, maybe we've been looking at this all wrong. Maybe it wasn't betrayal. Maybe it was something much stranger. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. We both lay in bed, facing opposite walls, backs barely touching. Not out of anger, just exhaustion. Mentally. Emotionally. Every time I closed my eyes, my brain looped through the same carousel of confusion, betrayal, STDs, old flings, nosy neighbors, contaminated laundry machines. What the hell were we even dealing with anymore? The next morning I snapped. I went full investigative mode. I started digging. I searched health forums, Reddit threads, even called the urgent care clinic anonymously and asked if there'd been any similar reports in our area. Nothing helpful. But I couldn't let it go. I texted her neighbor myself, the one who mentioned the other girl, and asked for her number. Are you serious? She asked. Dead serious. An hour later, I was on the phone with a girl I'd never met in my life, asking about her sex life and STD history like a damn detective. She was hesitant at first, obviously. But when I explained what we were going through, she softened. She told me she hadn't been with anyone in over a year. Got tested after a breakup, came back clean, hadn't had sex since. She lives in the same wing as us. Same floor. Uses the same laundry room and garbage chute. I thought it was a fluke, she said. But now? I don't know. That's when it clicked. I remembered something weird. 2 months ago, there was a plumbing issue in the building. Water got shut off for almost a full day. The management sent out this vague memo about a temporary pipe flush. No further explanation. And around that same time was when we started noticing odd little things. She had mild discomfort that came and went. I brushed off a burning sensation once and never mentioned it. It's like the symptoms were so subtle we didn't even think STD, just stress, dehydration, whatever. But what if something in the plumbing actually did cause something? Is that even possible? I brought it up to her. She looked horrified. Do you think it's in the water? She whispered. I laughed. But not because it was funny. It was just so ridiculous, so out there. And yet, that theory made more sense than cheating at this point. I told her I was going to get retested. Full panel. And I wanted her to do the same. If this was bigger than us, if there were more cases, we needed proof. So that's what we did. We both scheduled appointments. Different clinics. Different days. And then we waited. For answers. For closure. For something that wasn't a half-truth or a drunken memory. Because maybe, just maybe, we'd been looking for monsters in each other, when the real problem was buried deeper. In the pipes. Or the past. Or both. 3 days. That's how long it took for my results to come in. 3 long, mind-melting days where every noise made me jump, every interaction felt off. I was spiraling, not because I feared the result, but because I feared what the result meant. If it came back positive, I'd have to face it again, the possibility of betrayal, or something much worse. If it came back negative, we'd be back to square one, chasing ghosts. Her test was scheduled a day after mine. We agreed not to open our reports until both were in. She wanted to sit down side by side and look at them together. Brave face. No more running. When mine came through, I just stared at the email. I couldn't open it. My heart was pounding, not in fear or in rage. At how powerless this all felt. At how much control I had lost over my own damn reality. But I waited. Out of respect. Out of love. Or maybe just out of fear of seeing her face when she read hers. The next day, she came home holding her phone like it weighed 100 pounds. No words. Just a nod. We sat down on the couch. She opened hers first. Negative. Everything. Clean. She blinked twice, like she couldn't believe it. Then I opened mine. Negative. Also clean. We sat there silent. Still. Letting it wash over us, not relief exactly. More like bewilderment. Because now this whole thing was impossible again. That's when I said it out loud. What if this wasn't even an STD? She looked up at me slowly. I pulled out my phone and showed her screenshots. Health department articles. Reports of rare bacterial outbreaks in old buildings due to pipe corrosion, biofilm buildup, even rats contaminating water sources. She looked horrified. I don't even want to think about that, she whispered. I've been brushing my teeth with it. We didn't say anything else that night. Just sat there, shaken. In a strange way, it brought us closer again. That fear of the unknown, of something bigger than either of us. But the real twist? The next morning, I got a text from her old neighbor. You were right to ask. I talked to my doc again. They found something odd in my culture. Not an STD. Some kind of rare bacteria. They're reporting it to the city. I froze. She read it over my shoulder. Then she whispered, so we weren't crazy. No, I said. We were just living in a sick building. I wish I could tell you the ending was glamorous or dramatic, but honestly it was more of a quiet unraveling followed by a long, exhausted breath of relief. The second round of test results came in, both of us were negative. Clean. Nothing. No trace of chlamydia or any other STD in either of our bodies. We sat on the couch in silence, the unopened envelopes on the table between us. She opened hers first, read it, and then handed it to me with trembling hands. I opened mine next, and when I saw negative, I almost didn't believe it. I stared at it, rereading the same line over and over, as if the words would shift and suddenly say something else. But they didn't. We were clean. I think the first thing I felt wasn't relief, it was confusion. If neither of us had it, then what the hell happened? Was the original test wrong? A lab error? A contaminated sample? It's rare, sure, but not impossible. We ended up calling the clinic where she got tested the first time. They reviewed her chart and told her they'd had a cluster of complaints recently and were looking into possible cross-contamination with some test batches. They didn't confirm anything directly, but it was clear enough. A false positive. A fluke. We just sat there. No screaming. No hugging. Just quiet. I think we were both trying to figure out what the hell to feel. Weeks of emotional torture, accusations, paranoia, and the sinking fear of betrayal, all because of a lab screw-up. She eventually said, I'm sorry I doubted you, and I just nodded. I understood why she did. Everything pointed to me. The Airbnb. The timeline. The symptoms. Hell, even I started doubting myself at one point, but it still stung that even after 5 years, all it took was one slip-up in a clinic for everything to fall apart. In the days after, things weren't magically perfect. We both needed time to recover from the stress, the mistrust, and the emotional whiplash. But we made it a point to start over. Fresh, open, and more communicative than before. She deleted Life 360, we set new boundaries, and honestly, I think we're stronger now. We even went on that vacation, and for the first time in weeks, we laughed again. The takeaway? Sometimes, the truth doesn't come dressed in certainty. Sometimes it shows up late after the storm has passed. But if there's one thing I learned, it's that trust has to survive even the darkest storms to mean anything at all.